Welcome back to the channel today, guys. Or should I say welcome back to the classroom, because with today's episode of Classroom of the Elite, we mark the end of Season 2. With Season 3 already announced, and I'm extremely happy about that. Now, this episode was basically all set up. And kind of tying a little bit of loose ends here and there with this season. All set up, though, for next season. Now, I gotta say, guys, this time around, they cut a lot of content. They cut a lot. This one episode had to cover an entire volume of the show. And it still didn't. But they cut a lot this time. And I think it was unavoidable in this instance, because some of this stuff wouldn't work out really well right where it is. And I suspect a lot of it will be in the first episode of the next season. So to all my light novel readers out there, don't freak out. We're getting scenes. And they finally included a certain scene that we'll talk about when we get to the end. But let's just get straight into it and talk about Classroom of the Elite Season 2, Episode 13, finale today. So our episode begins immediately with Ryun, actually, contemplating something in his head, saying how, if that day, before I'd killed him, if I had felt fear, would I have made the same decisions? As we see, Ibuki is desperately searching for Ryun around the school. As we see Ryun walking on the school campus listlessly after the unbelievable beatdown he got in our previous episode, as Ibuki chases after him and finally finds him. She asks him, what, are you gonna drop out of school or something? As he turns around, tosses her his phone, and says, here, you take all my points. What happened was my mistake. It's my responsibility. She argues with him, saying how no matter how many times you lose, the one who wins in the end is the strongest, right? That's what you've always said. And he just tells her, so what? And she demands, like, so you're just gonna end everything now? As he counters with, a tyrant's reign is only permitted as long as his authority serves some purpose. Meaning that his rule over the class was only allowed because he was benefiting them. But now that he got defeated, he doesn't feel like he's needed anymore. But Ibuki doesn't take this lying down, grabs him, and tries to stop him. But he's still refusing, so she actually kicks him on the ground and says, wow, what a sad sight. Throws his phone back at him and says, fine, quit if you want. I don't care anymore. As she ends up walking away. And it's here that we see that Ayanokoji was watching this whole interaction the entire time, as he says that Ryun can still be useful to me. And it's here that we transition to Kei. But this Kei is different than the Kei we saw in our last episode. Our Kei is different. She's had a complete transformation, basically. As what was stated in our previous episode, that the shackles on her heart are finally gone. She's kind of, I guess you could really say, coming to her own in this instance and come out of her shell a bit, feeling more confident with herself. As she starts thinking about the boy that saved her, Ayanokoji Kiyotaka. A boy of few words and a very little presence, but deep down, he's completely different. Who's put her through pretty terrible things, but the other day saved her life. And at this point, I have to say that, remember throughout this whole season how I've been saying her feelings for Ayanokoji have not been love just yet. They haven't. They have been interest. They've been curiosity. Because it was even stated in the prior episodes that when her life before Ayanokoji came into it was boring, it was dull, it lacked some passion, I guess you could say. She wasn't satisfied. But over the course of meeting him, she's felt excited. She's felt happy. She's done so many new and interesting things. And now her feelings have turned into full-blown love. It's at this point that Kei realizes, oh shit, I love this guy. This moment right here is the moment. And it's here that we transition to a scene with Sato actually asking Kei about advice about going on a date with Ayanokoji. And Kei, obviously with her newfound feelings, isn't too keen on the idea. She's not too happy about it. So they're going over what Sato wants to do in the date. And Kei asks her, alright, so when's it happening on? And she's like, oh, December 25th, Christmas Day. Kei's like, a first date on Christmas Day? Ain't that kind of quick? But even though she doesn't like this idea at all, she just has to keep up the appearance and decides, you know, I'll help you. Even though she's never even been on an honest-to-goodness date herself. And it's here that Sato proposes a double date, which Kei hates the idea too, but ends up agreeing. And it's here we transition to Kei later that night, kind of going over what's happened recently. And let me say one thing. Kei, out of every single girl in this series, understands Ayanokoji. Like, actually, like, legitimately understands his real self. As she's saying, a date, huh? Are you trying to figure out if Sato is someone you can use or not, Ayanokoji? And she hits the nail on the fucking head. She knows him better than Horikita does, by far. But she's also worried that it could potentially be romance as well. And it's here she's thinking thoughts like this that Ayanokoji actually ends up calling her in this instance. She's like, oh shit, I gotta get prepared. So, and right away he says, there's something I need you to look into for me. And she's like, what? I thought you were done asking me to look into stuff. But she still asks him, what do you want me to look into? And Ayanokoji actually tells her that I want you to look into Sato. I want you to know who she hangs out with, and what she does on a normal day. If possible, I'd like to know about her personality, hobbies, and personal preferences. And Kei is not happy about hearing this whatsoever. She's like, we're not even really in the same friend group. Ayanokoji just says, just send me the details via email, and hangs up right then and there. And Kei becomes very, very down in the dumps in this situation. And it's here we transition to a scene with Ayanokoji actually calling Horikita out to tell her that he wants her to join the student council on someone's discretion. And that someone is actually her brother. And this actually ties into the content that was cut from this episode. That's honestly very important content for next season and beyond. But we'll talk about that at the end. Now, naturally, she doesn't believe him. And Ayanokoji says, alright, talk to the man himself. And actually calls up her brother and hands the phone to Horikita, who steals herself and talks to him. And realizes, yeah, he said it would be in my best interest to join up. You're not lying. But she still feels that she doesn't understand what benefit joining the student council would do to her. At the very least, she wouldn't do it while serving as his go-between, Ayanokoji's. Meaning that as long as she's kind of like Ayanokoji's henchman in a way, being his figurehead, that she won't end up joining the council. That it's kind of hard for her to do so, playing the role that he's supposed to be playing. And he tells her that he'll back off for right now. As we see that Kushida is actually overseeing the conversation the entire time. And it's here we transition to a very important scene in our episode, where Ayanokoji actually calls Ryun out to have a conversation with him. And Ryun starts off by saying that, so, I heard that Class D put in a claim that the sabotage of the security cameras in the gym was also a part of our fault, and because of that, I get to stay in school. Meaning that Class D partially took the blame for what happened there, at least on the surface, so that Ryun wouldn't have an excuse to be able to leave school. And he asks Ayanokoji, like, are you the one that arranged that? Because Ryun was absolutely going to use that excuse to leave school. He was definitely going to do that. As Ayanokoji asked him, oh, I thought you were going to use the Kei incident to get kicked out of school. And Ryun says, if I'd done that, Ishizaki and everyone else would have been expelled as well. That it would be a really lousy way for a leader of a class to take responsibility for his class. As Ayanokoji literally tells him about the incident in the gym, Ryun, it was a wise decision. As he said, "Had you been alone, you could have still hung in there and fought me. Putting on that show before surrendering had value in and of itself." As Ryun literally jokes that, "I thought looking down on others was my job." And let me tell you guys right now, no one looks down on others more than Ayanokoji, the person who literally stands at the top. As Ryun tells him that, "I'm retired now." And what he means by that is, he's kind of taking a step back from being the leader of Class C right now. He's going to let someone else be the leader, and he's going to bow out for a little bit and kind of hang in the background. I guess you could say to lick his wounds for a bit. That's what he means by "I'm retiring right now." As Ryun asks Ayanokoji, "So what's your plan for me now?" And Ayanokoji tries to play it off like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And Ryun's like, "Don't play dumb. You want to send me after the other classes, don't you? I can't think of another reason why you'd keep me at this school if not for that." Because Ayanokoji kept him from getting kicked out, guys. He's the reason why. He wants Ryun to stay in the school. As Ayanokoji says, "The other classes, I have no intent of doing such thing. I don't really care about them, though I don't mind that others around me care about that." As Ayanokoji brings up that Class D has another problem right now it needs to deal with. And Ryun pieces it together and says, "It's Kushida, isn't it?" As he states that, treatment can keep cancer at bay at times, but unless it's completely expunged, it'll never truly go away. Meaning that Kushida is a problem to the class. She's the biggest threat right now to Class D. She's like a cancer that could potentially spread and completely destroy their class from the inside. And she has to get nipped in the butt. As Ayanokoji tells Ryun that, "I already have come to my conclusion. In the third term, Class D will ascend to Class C." And now, like I said in my previous video, they're already supposed to have done that. They're already supposed to be Class C. Because after the events of the paper shuffle, they had more class points than Class C. So I don't know why they're not Class C yet, but they will officially become Class C very soon. But then he adds that will likely fall back down to Class D because he's going to end up getting Kushida expelled. And that is wild. As Ryun literally comments saying, "Wow, you really are a scary person, aren't you?" You don't know the half of it, Ryun. You don't know the half of it. And it's here we transition to the date between Ayanokoji and Sato. Now, I gotta say, guys, they cut a lot of information from this date. Not only is this date like really good character development for Kei and Hirata, actually, but we get a lot of information about stuff that's going to be very prevalent in Season 3, but they just cut it flat out. Like I said, they had to do an entire volume in one episode. It was damn near impossible for them to do everything. But they cut a lot of good stuff in this scene. As Hirata and Kei walk up and say, "Oh, what a coincidence! Hey guys, you're on a date too?" As Ayanokoji asks him, like, "Oh, you're on a date as well, huh?" And Kei, upon hearing that, she was clinging to Hirata, but she quickly gets off of him. Because she knows that Ayanokoji knows that that's fake, so it's incredibly awkward. He sees right through her instantly. He knows what they're doing here. And he literally addressed that question to her specifically. And it's here as a part of Sato's plan that Kei actually suggests, why don't we do a double date? Could be a good change of pace. And I absolutely love the look on Ayanokoji's face in this scene. He knows what's going on. He's like, what the hell are you doing right now? I suppose I can give you guys a quick little summary of how the date is supposed to go. Because it's supposed to go much differently than it did in here. We literally skipped everything. This whole time, this date, throughout this entire time, it damn near turned into a date between Ayanokoji and Kei in the light novel, with how much those two just kept arguing back and forth with each other. Fucking Hirata and Sato were constantly bewildered, like, yo, Kei, why are you getting on his case so much this whole time? Because Kei was mad throughout the whole date, belittling him in the light novel. And they don't show that at all. But we get a little scene of that where they go to the restaurant and oh, their tables are suddenly reserved for 4 all of a sudden. And Ayana Koji says, oh, you reserved it for 4 people, huh? You planned that pretty far in advance, huh? As Kei tries to play it off saying, oh, I had to alter the reservation right before we got here, you know? And Ayana Koji just looks at her and says, you liar. You liar. I know what you're doing. And she's like, are you really one to call me a liar, Kiyotaka? And it's here that we transition to the end of the date with Ayanokoji and Kei, or not Kei, with Sato and all them. And they end up parting ways with each other. As Sato ends up asking him, you know, is there somewhere we can stop on the way back? There's a place I want to go. And Ayanokoji says, sure, why not? Let's go. So her and Ayanokoji start walking, and Sato starts commenting that, damn, they've really got that couple aura about them, huh? I'd really love something like that for myself. As Ayanokoji tells her, you know, thank you for inviting me out today. I had a lot of fun. But then she asks him, did you? Did you really have fun today? Because you didn't smile even one time. As Ayanokoji tells her that, I'm just not the smiling type. But literally he thinks to himself that it's not that I can't smile, but I've judged you unworthy of smiling for. And that shit is savage as fuck. As she finally musters the courage to ask him to be her boyfriend. And he says, no, I'm sorry. I can't be what you want me to be. Understatement and a half right there. As she asks him, like, can you at least tell me why? And he just flat out says that I can't be your boyfriend if I don't feel affection towards you at all. And it is savage as fuck. It literally makes her burst into tears on the spot as he says, I've never felt romantic feelings for anyone before. I don't think I'm even mature enough to fall in love just yet. As Sato literally runs off crying. And even I'm like, damn, that was harsh as hell. But he was honest at least. I'll give him that. He was upfront and honest. As Ayanokoji finally addresses the fact that Kei's been following them for a while now. So they sit down and talk, and Kei asks him, so why'd you end up turning her down? And he says, just flat out, that she's an unsuitable substitute for you. And that makes her happy, but she has to ask this question that's been bugging her for a while now, of, do you really see people as nothing but tools? He tells her, what if I do? And she counters like, so you've really never felt affection for anyone in your whole life? As he says, not so far at least, no I haven't. And in this moment, she actually gets up and hands him a Christmas present, saying how, knowing you, I guarantee no one's giving you a gift. So here you go, take it. And he actually has a gift for her, actually. And she looks into it, and it's cold medicine. And he says, you were soaked to the bone the other day in that incident. I thought you'd get sick from that, but I guess you were wrong. And she's exasperated by it, but she realizes that at least to an extent, he was worried about me. So I could be happy about that. As he says, so, shall we return? Kei, should we head back? And from this point on in our show, they both will address each other by first name only. From this point onward. When they're alone, at least. But it's here that all good things can't last. As they're walking away, Ayanokoji says, this will do. Kirazawa Kei is now entirely dependent on me. And it's like I said in last week's episode, he did that intentionally. He's planned this entire thing also that she would be undoubtedly loyal to him the entire time. He planned everything. Proposing to end their agreement to spark lingering regrets in her. And delaying his rescue attempt for her until the moment before she broke. All the recent events that have happened recently were exactly as he planned them to be. And it ended up working. She feels genuine trust towards him now. She's become quite an effective pawn. As Ayanokoji literally thinks to himself that in the end, I guess I'm still there. I guess I'm still a part of the White Room. As he thinks to himself that, will my perception of others as nothing but pawns, as tools, will this relationship of ours ever change? And it's here that him and Kei actually part ways as they're getting closer to the dorm. And as he's walking back to the dorm, this is where we finally get our Saki Anagi scene that we were supposed to get at the end of the sports festival when she walks up to him. As she says, "We never properly said hello after so long apart, did we, Ayana Koji?" And he literally says that, "I don't know what you mean." As she addresses him as the ultimate masterpiece of the White Room that your father created, the false genius. And she says that the role of burying that genius should belong to me. As Iona Koji literally just stares at her and says, "Are you capable of burying me?" as our episode ends. And this scene is a very important scene, and it will absolutely be continued in the first episode of Season 3, as our episode ends for today right here on this cliffhanger. As I just stated, that this scene will definitely be in Season 3, probably in the very first episode. So I'm not going to talk about it too much, besides the fact that she knows of the White Room, and she knows that he's from it. Take what you will from that. We'll talk more about that when Season 3 happens, but this episode was quite good, even though they cut a lot of stuff. But the stuff they cut, I will say, will absolutely be added, probably also to the first episode of Season 3, because it's very important information, actually, that we will get into soon. But with that, this is the end of Season 2. So you guys let me know what you thought of it down below, you know? I thought they did a pretty good job with this season, all things considered. I don't think they bungled it up as much as they did Season 1. That shit was not great. I think they did at least a better job this time around than they did last time. I think they kept most of the core things that needed to be in here and didn't, again, bungle it up. But you guys let me know how you feel down below. And with that, Season 2 comes to a close, guys. So, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, week, month, and year. And until Season 3, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Have a great day, and deuce.